My guest today is Boezeman, who spent 23 years in executive roles with Time Warner Inc. and holds several non-executive roles on a variety of public, private, government and philanthropic boards in Australia. She's currently Managing Director of Business Benefits International and the Chairman of PayPal. Welcome back to In Her Shoes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Cheers.
I want to talk about the industry that you were in for 23 years. You were with Time Warner Inc. in a number of different roles in a number of different parts of the world. And what I wanted to ask was, what were the most remarkable changes that you noticed within that industry over that time?
Great question. Starting late 73, early 74, we were really in the field of books, music, and movies in a big way, Time Warner, or it was called Time Incorporated then before it bought Warner Brothers. And one of the huge changes that happened was the company decided that he was going to get into cabling in the United States for this new thing called pay television. And we were all quite excited around the world to see if it would really happen. And once they switched the switch on, they didn't have enough programming for 24 hours, if you can imagine, because it was very expensive to do. So what they would do is they'd actually show enough programming that would get you through daytime television. And people actually put the corporation down and said, you know, no one will ever pay to watch television. Isn't this a funny situation that you look at this in 2011 and see that everyone's jockeying for how many billions they're going to pay for AFL or NRL footy. Anyway, it was fascinating to watch the losses that the company made, the argumentation inside New York, whether this was a good investment or not. And what eventually happened was it was called Home Box Office and became the #1 pay channel in the world. We watched a hockey stick being way down below profit to one day in about 1976, it actually jumping straight up and never looked back after that. It was a combination of cabling up cable and eventually fiber optics, and then having television around the clock for 24 hours. And of course, everyone tried to follow suit. The great news was Time had a foothold in the pay television industry. At that stage, again, it provided electronic media, people that could actually see things instantly, like, God forbid, they actually saw a boxing match on television. They say we suddenly bought a percentage of CNN and they saw news that was happening around the clock instantaneously. And for a company like that, to see the dramatic changes was very exciting. And it gave the impetus that we would grow and grow more our magazines, our books, our music, and all our entertainment business. And of course, the greatest statistic now is Warner Brothers has just completed its 8th Harry Potter. And it will actually tip in total to Time Warner $1 billion in profit. That's before all the other people around the world have made their own cuts of profit. So media is becoming an instant thing. People want it now. Just like everybody wants to pick up their smartphone and they want to know things now. And that was the dramatic change that I experienced.
Was there anything that surprised or delighted you about the evolution of media, especially perhaps even since you've left?
Yeah. Well, I think the internet, to me, I mean, I used to work the internet even before I left Time Warner, but the internet to me is the future. The internet is now the electronic wallet. I mean, if you think about it, no one can leave home without their mobile phone. And this is kind of ages of 13 and upwards. So if you don't have your mobile phone with you, you feel that you're not in communication with the world. And that is a major difference. And people have to learn that we'll never not be without a device for the rest of our lives, because we need a device on us, and eventually it will become a device that will pay for anything that you really want. Right now, smartphones can optically read a barcode, you know, when you go and try on clothing, and you can go home and check it on the internet because you've already had the barphone scan into your mobile phone. Things like this will become more prolific, and they're exciting, and I think anyone that's pushing back from it is going to be behind evolution. And everyone that's jumping through with mobile phones are actually going to be ahead of the game.
One of the roles that you currently hold, one of the board positions, is as chairman of PayPal. That's a role you've had since 2006, which, with the changes we've seen in the internet, what part of that being an online business attracted you to that role?
Right, well, a couple of things. One is I've spent my life with pro bono boards trying to help young people. And that is everything from a cochlear implant to Olympic sports to a plethora, helping them raise money to play musical instruments. The list is a mile long. The attraction was that I was going to get together with young people at the embryo stage, what was really happening on the internet. And it's kind of like Apple computers 30 years ago, 35 years ago when Steve Jobs started it. This is what PayPal is really all about. eBay bought this payment company when they already had one, but they could see that it had a lot of extra toots and whistles that it could do. And then it inputted another $1 billion US into making it a safe mechanism so people could buy things, but the other side could not see your details. So if I bought you roses from Roses Only, they would get my money, they would get the address to send you the roses, but they would never see my credit card details. So it attracted me a lot to the security of what was happening, and also I could actually visualize this was going to take off in the future. I started, 5 years ago when we were transacting perhaps like a credit card, maybe $400 million transactions in Australia. And today we're transacting multi-billion-dollar transactions.
In Australia?
In Australia only. And it'll just continue to grow. The one exciting thing, and that's what I love being with young people and young technology, is that about 13% of our business, and I'm talking about in the millions, is on the mobile phone. People are going to work every day, and you can see through the blip, we actually trace everybody paying by the second, by the minute. You can see them going to work or going on a bus, and there's blips going up. They're buying on their mobile phone. They get into work, smoko or break, the blip going up, and they go home and the blip goes up. So we can actually see the pattern of everyone using their mobile phone to buy, and they're buying plane tickets. They're buying Jetstar. They're buying tickets online. They're just sitting there and punching in PayPal, and they don't have to type in any of their details. It's already known, putting in their security code, and all of a sudden they've just bought a ticket in probably about a minute and a half. Now, if you're in the age of technology and speed, and everybody's trying to save time, what's going to happen is the internet's going to do that for you.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's great.
I'd love to see those graphs.
Yeah,
That's terrific.
Incredible. Yeah, it's incredible.
You've been very successful in your career.
Yes.
What do you consider have been the strategies or the principles or the values that you've lived by that have supported your success?
Right. Well, as a woman in business, number one, I had to be patient. Because I was always very keen, I was quick on the take, was very bright at work, and I realized, and I say this to everyone that asks me, in particular females, have perseverance. That's number one. Number two, learn how to manage properly, bring people on board for the ride, and give them knowledge so that they understand. And then your leadership technique evolves that to lead the people, walk behind them, which was a famous quote from Lao Tzu before Christ. It's what I always believed in as a leader is you actually nurture and let your management feel that they're coming up with the ideas so they feel empowered. And I never really had an issue managing people because I really loved the art of management. I loved the team that I worked with. And I like to bring them along for the ride, and I like to nurture people to actually take the next step or to take my job so that they could grow. And that's been the most exciting thing for me is to actually manage people, and it's the most difficult. If you go to work every day and you have an awful lot of people that you actually manage, the most difficult thing is that every day someone has an issue, and you have to be there to be their leader, their listener, and their guider so that they can resolve their own issue and they can go forward.
I believe you're quite a golfer.
I am, yes. I love it.
Tell us about the role that sport has played for
Well,
you.
one thing that I suggest when I public speak to people is you must be fit and healthy in order to enjoy your job. And if you work too hard, if you're a workaholic and you don't get enough fitness, even if that's walking briskly home for an hour, then you're actually going to find that you can't mentally learn as quickly. Actually doing any form of sport, even if sedentary, just lifting weights in a gym like I do occasionally, actually releases endorphins in your brain, makes you sharper, makes you brighter. And people actually don't realize this until you let on. And then when you encourage them to do some form of sport or activity, it's amazing the transformation of employees. They say, oh, I feel great today. I did such and such last night. So. And I feel the same way. I play golf, I play tennis, I go to the gym, I swim. I walk. So I've done this my whole life because I know you have to supplement very heavy, stressful work by de-stressing that way. You have to have a balance in your life. And even though I'm on a plethora of things, I still have an amazing balance that I have enough time for sport as well as socializing and then doing all the jobs that I do.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.